Welcome everyone to the second trading day of the final week in the month of March. It's the 60th day of the month, and we just got about 4 more sessions before we say goodbye to March and the first quarter of the year. I'm posting them off here. And of course, just a quick rundown through. We've got a couple of big news coming through this morning across the continent. But first, let's walk you through to the markets opening day on Monday. The Nigerian market was down by roughly 0.5%. That's about roughly 300 billion naira in local currency, as we saw a pullback by big names such as Dangote Sugar. The PRVM in Cote d'Ivoire was better by 0.11%. The Egyptian market started its full week with the rest of the region with about 1% in the green territory. The EGX is heading back towards 30,000 reading. Let's see how far that goes to the end of the week. They got the Nairobi stock market is roaring right now with the news coming through that the world's biggest assets manager, Blackrock, with about $9 trillion in assets under management, has picked Kenya as the next investment destination for his portfolio. That's one of the biggest news that Kenya could have, with investors now binging on stocks listed on the Nairobi bourse. One big news out of East Africa, and we're all marking that BlackRock entering Africa is part of the 10 countries that BlackRock has picked, coming back to the African continent after 4 years hiatus. It's now stepping back into sub-Saharan Africa via Nairobi. The Zimbabwe stock market was better by about 3% on Monday. The Ghana market was down by just a few notches, while the JSE was better by just 4 basis points, around 73,000. Those are your markets around up on the equity side. Let me just walk you through the East Africa's big stories. And we've got quite a number of them, with the Africa Finance Corporation, is headquartered in Lagos, but it's got sovereigns across the continent as shareholder. The IFC reporting this morning from the Middle East that is raised $1.16 billion in syndicated loan from investors across the Middle East, Europe and Asia to support Africa's infrastructure further. That's one good news. This country is the largest single transaction in terms of fundraising by the Africa Finance Corporation. Congratulations. And good news as the Kenyan Privatization Authority moves forward with the second round of its privatization so far this year with the sale of the Development Bank of Kenya. And the INM says it's raised dividend to 2 shillings 55 per share as profit hits 12.6 billion shillings for the full year 2023. And Uganda's power company Umeme says its profit was down to about 11.5 billion Uganda shillings for the full year 2023, while the Bank of Tanzania has pumped $100 million into circulation to tame the scarcity of FX in the country. Now, that sounds familiar with the Nigeria's story. The central bank yesterday sold at least about $20,000 each to those bureau de change operators at about 1,250 naira to the US dollar, tried to undercut market speculators and retain the convergence between the street rate and between the BDC rate and the central bank official rate. That's the news this morning. Let's go to the top of the table with the Bank of Ghana holding rates unchanged at 29%, stating that inflationary pressure, according to the governor, the BOG governor, NSE, saying that inflationary pressure, the risk is still to the upside. However, the bank also applied what it calls the new cash reserve ratio for commercial banks as far as their capitalization and other parameters are concerned. Then you've got the news around cocoa prices now nearly at $10,000 per metric ton, the highest on record, because Ghana, one of the largest cocoa producers in the world, the second largest after Cote d'Ivoire, is facing funding crunch. The cocoa country's cocoa company is short of about $200 million funds that is needed. And of course, the administration in Ghana also faces a bit of a fiscal pressure. So there's a shortage of production and export. You've got the weather conditions also being at play here. El Nino cutting back on West Africa's cocoa production from Nigeria to Ghana. And of course, the biggest cocoa producer and exporter, and that's Cote d'Ivoire. What impact that will have on chocolate prices around the world is anyone's guess moving forward. And Senegal's got a new elected president, Afaye, who won yesterday, the Miss Main challenger considered defeat at the a poll, which will see the 63 exit of President Macky Sall, and of course, Eurobond, Senegalese Eurobond, deep on that positive news. The 44-year-old new president is expected to rule the country moving forward. And the Oscar Onyema, who came in 13 years ago as the CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange and transformed into the Group CEO of the NGS Group, formally pulled out of the exchange today at an event organized by the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers as well as the Association of Stockbrokers Houses of Nigeria. Oscar spent nearly 15 years transiting the Nigerian exchange into a demutualized exchange. Antonio Relu's Foundation yesterday announced the 10th cohort of its entrepreneurial program for Pan-Africa, and I got about 20,000 in total participants since it started. And the total money on the table has exceeded $100 million, according to a statement from the foundation on Monday. And Nigeria has floated a new Renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund, which is branded around Renewed Hope campaign program of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The new infrastructure fund is expected to provide support for health, education, road, energy, and other critical real side of the economy for Africa's most populous and the biggest economy. Those are your headlines in West Africa. Let's get on to see the Southern Africa with the South Africa's consumer confidence data coming in slightly improved around a negative 15 points against 17 points earlier. But the biggest news everyone swarming overnight was the deal by Zambia and the Eurobond private creditors to reject $3.5 billion. It's been roughly 4 years, thereabout, roughly 5 years, since Zambia signed on to the IMF G20 framework, debt framework. Now that has been fully done. President Ishilema thanked all the creditors, including Zambians, home and abroad, for their patience in getting this debt resolution or Eurobond issue cleared up. And the National Bank of Malawi says it's posted 72 billion kwacha profit after tax for full year 23, while the third meeting of Africa's credit rating regulators is scheduled for Lusaka, Zambia on March the 26th. And finally, Zambia and Zimbabwe said they've got to re-tender for the $5 billion Vatoka hydropower energy plant. Those are your headlines. Southern part of the continent. So we're taking it up to North Africa, where the Central Bank of Tunisia held its key lending rate at 8%, looking at inflation moderation in the country, while Moody's has changed Tunisia's outlook from negative to stable. And that's some good news for President Said's administration. Egypt is reviewing petrol subsidies in its budget for 2024-2025 period, while Morocco's Bank Central Popular Group reported about a 26.4% upside in its consolidated turnover for the full year 2023 ended December the 31st. Those are your headlines. Keep your eyes open today, 12:30 Nigerian time, for the press briefing by Olayemi Cardoso, the Central Bank Governor, bringing to an end the two-day monetary policy meeting of the Central Bank, the second in the year. The first under the Central Bank was held exactly a month ago. Bloomberg's economists predicting another jumbo hike by the Central Bank of Nigeria, 400 basis points, was what Cardoso and his team did in February. Let's see what happens this afternoon, lunchtime, 12:30 Nigerian time, for the press briefing. Don't miss it. I am Busi Namafai. Have a good day and see you again tomorrow.